Well, he's raced at Martinsville exactly one time, and he about got the full Martinsville experience in that one trip. That is why I'm calling this video Shane Van Gisbergen Got Martinsville, because that's truly what happened tonight. For those of you who do not watch NASCAR a lot, Martinsville is the truest short track on the schedule. It's a flat half-mile oval, which I believe is about 0.85 kilometers. It's tight quarters. It's a flat track. The inside line is much preferred, to the point that if you are on the outside, you get sent to the back, which SVG experienced in this race. We will talk about that later, but chaos happens. Wrecks happen. You bump people out of the way. You get bumped out of the way. Once again, we'll talk about that in a minute. But there's this old saying that, you go to Martinsville, your doors are going to be beat up. If the right side of your door is beat up, that's a good thing, because that means you've been passing cars. If the left side of your door is beat up, that means you were getting passed. But yes, we're here to talk about the Xfinity race at Martinsville. Honestly, it's always one of the best races of the year across all of NASCAR. It produces some of the most chaos, the most interesting moments, I'll say that, but also some of the best racing. We saw some terrific racing throughout the field. Sam Mayer coming up through the field late in this race. We saw Sheldon Creed, Chandler Smith teammates going at it. We saw Sheldon Creed make an optimistic move late in the race that failed. But ultimately, Eric Almirola won. He got his first Xfinity race win since, last summer at Sonoma. But as for Shane Van Gisbergen, I'm sure that's who all the Australians and New Zealanders are concerned about. He had himself a day. Qualified 19th for this race. Not terrible, but, he's qualified better. But it's his first time at Martinsville. We've talked about it it's almost been a quarter of the season. We've talked about it all season long. It's a learning experience for him. A lot of these tracks, it's his first time going to, and in a lot of these tracks, it's his first time ever going to this style of track. Well, last week we were at Richmond, another short track, but as I said, a completely different style of short track. It's an oval, tight space, more bump and runs, more contact. Richmond is a short track, yes, but there's more lines to be run. There's more places to go. It's a wider racetrack, where Martinsville, as I've said multiple times now, tight, bumpers, tempers, all that stuff. Just look at the truck race last night when Timmy Hill yelled at Stuart Friesen. But we saw SVG qualify 19th, but due to a few cars in the front of the field having to change some parts on their cars, adjusting a couple of things, those were unapproved adjustments. Therefore, they had to start at the back of the field. So SVG actually was promoted 6 spots, because the way in NASCAR it works is if the car in 5th place has to drop to the rear, rather than reshuffling everyone, one spot, one position. So instead of starting on the outside, you now go to the inside and all that. If the driver who starts 5th goes to the back of the field, the whole inside line moves up a spot, or moves up a row. Well, there were 3 cars on the inside line that had to drop to the rear in front of SVG. So he actually rolled on lap 1 13th in this race. But that first stint was definitely his worst. He fell backwards, back to about where he qualified 19th, 20th. And he just kind of sat in that range for the first portion of the race. They made some adjustments, made some pits. And once again, oh my gosh, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. His pit crew is phenomenal. One pit stop, they gained him like 5 spots in one pit stop. They're doing great. But yes, he was able to gain some spots on pit road. That helped. But for the majority of the day, he kind of sat in that 15th to 20th range. Then there were a couple of wrecks that happened, including one that he completely avoided. The restart happened, and Brandon Jones, who was on row 2 or 3, missed a shift, and therefore everyone on the outside row stacked up. A bunch of people busted their radiators and crashed. Well, luckily for SVG, he was on the inside and was able to pass every single one of these wrecked cars. And at some point in this race, he had made his way up into the top 10. Once again, there were some crashes. There were some crazy things going on. But late in this race, with about 100 or so to go, he was restarting 10th. He decided to pick the outside line, though. And this is our first example of getting Martinsville. Martinsville, as I said, the inside is the preferred line, and it is a heavily preferred line. We will see restarts before the choose cone, before the choose V, which is where you get to choose if you're going to restart on the bottom or the top. We'll see 5 out of the first 7 cars pick the inside line. The only reason those guys pick the top line is because, I was in 4th place, but I want to start on the front row, or, I was going to be in 7th, but now I can restart 4th. Why not? I may get shuffled back. It may not work out, but why not take a risk here? And that's what happened with SVG. He restarted 10th on a restart, but he was on the outside line. And the thing is, if you cannot get to the bottom of the racetrack, if you cannot get to that preferred bottom line, you get eaten alive. Like, it's crazy. You know, it burns up your tires a bit, but also it's a much quicker line. And no one's just going to let you in unless it's a teammate, most likely. And that's what happened to SVG. He got forced on that outside, or he picked the outside line himself, so he's kind of got himself to blame, but he quickly fell back. 14th, 15th, 16th. And then we come to example number 2 of getting Martinsville. Remember Jeb Burton all the way back from Daytona? Yes, that's right. SVG had some incidents with Jeb Burton at Daytona. And Jeb Burton does not forget. Now, this was nothing malicious. This was nothing insane. This is typical Martinsville stuff. But Jeb Burton opted to use the front bumper. I have not found a replay, so I don't know if I'm showing you, but Jeb Burton opted to use the front bumper on SVG. Typical short track stuff. But he did not just slightly move him out of the groove, move him up to that second line. Oh, he sent him. Didn't wreck him, didn't spin him, but he sent Shane Van Gisbergen, and he went from 15th, 16th back to 20th. And once he got back to 20th, he was once again still pinned on that outside line, fell all the way back to 25th. And at this point, I'm sitting here watching like, he just burned up all his stuff, got sent into the corner, and he's in 25th now. It's over. It's going to be somewhere in the 20s for him. But no. That is not how this race ended. He actually made his way back up through the field, started making his way back up, back inside the top 20, back up to 16th or 17th. Caution happens, everyone pits, and he was actually able to make his way up to 13th, 14th, somewhere around there. And then with about, 15 to go or something, another crash happens, and he's suddenly up into 11th or 12th. Another crash happens, and he's still sitting there 11th to 13th range. And then one final crash happens. And because of this crash, Shane Van Gisbergen is 10th place. He is in the top 10 when they come to the choose V, the choose cone, whatever you want to call it. He ends up picking the inside line. He has learned his lesson. Do not go to the top of the racetrack unless you want to get run over. And at this point on the radio, he had been talking about how, he was having a bunch of fun, but he had also mentioned with about, 30 to go, I want to say, 20 to go, something like that. A colleague's social media, Twitter person who tweets out quotes from the radio said that SVG had come over to the radio and said, "This is about the time when people start doing dumb stuff now, isn't it?" Yeah, that's what started to happen about that point of the race. So because of that, when you're on the outside on these late restarts, it gets chaotic, it gets stupid, people get sent, people get wrecked. SVG learned his lesson, and he picked the bottom of the racetrack. So he restarted 11th on this final restart, and more chaos happened. The 18 from 3rd place decided to try to make it 3 wide with the leaders. He tried to bump Sam Mayer out of the way. It did not work. Sheldon Creed went backwards. Everyone got stacked up. And then white flag flies. The race is official. This is it. Riley Herbst just gets absolutely obliterated into turn 1. The race is over. Caution is out. The race is official. Checkered flag, yellow flag. Eric Almirola is your winner. But SVG, originally they said 12th. But now they're showing us an 11th place finish. Now, we talked about earlier Shane Van Gisbergen learning from his Martinsville experience. Remember, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this yet, But we talked about him picking the outside and him getting run over, getting sent to the back. And we also talked about Jeb Burton sending him up the racetrack. Well, Shane Van Gisbergen, he learned his lesson. He has watched these NASCAR races. He has talked to people about how this short track stuff works. And next time he saw Jeb Burton, he didn't try to pass him cleanly. He didn't just waltz on by like it was another Saturday afternoon drive. He learned his lesson, and he got back. So you know what? We're going to do it. Play the song!
7. I think he's thinking about even the little payback from what Debbie did earlier. Squared up. This for 15. Yep. From love, from New York.
Yes, Shane Van Gisbergen. He got back at Jeb Burton. Nothing egregious, nothing crazy. He didn't even send him. He didn't wreck him. He didn't spin him. As I said, he did not even send him like what Jeb Burton did to him. He just moved him out of the groove. A little bump and run. That is the NASCAR experience. That is pure NASCAR right there, what he did. And that is fully legal. It's fully okay. He got that experience at COTA a few weeks ago with Austin Hill. Just bump him up out of the way, bump him out of the groove. And that is ultimately what he did here. Nice and NASCAR-y. It was beautiful. I'm proud. I'm proud of Shane Van Gisbergen. He truly had a full NASCAR experience tonight. He got bump and run. Well, he got sent and run, but then he returned the favor and he bump and runned Jeb Burton. He got the full Martinsville experience in terms of trying to restart on the top and getting absolutely freight trained. He witnessed some crazy wrecks. He got his doors bumped a few times. He truly got the most Martinsville experience in one single race. The only thing he didn't get is what Cam Waters got last night, which was a accordion stack up in which you get spun out or your radiator busts. So, but then again, that's the Truck Series. Truck Series is... Whew, but Martinsville always produces chaos, always produces interesting races in the Xfinity Series. As I said, some of the best races of the year. But Eric Almirola was your winner for Joe Gibbs Racing. His first win with JGR in the Xfinity Series this season. He's running a part-time schedule, wanted to spend more time at home, but also still wanted to race. And remember, last week dominated at Richmond, but fell short. Well, this week he dominated, but he did not fall short. He won at Martinsville. Other notes from this race. We didn't talk about it last week. Bubba Pollard got 6th place finish in his NASCAR Xfinity Series debut. Very impressive. Well, the 88 car has done it again, but this time with Carson Kvapil, son of Travis Kvapil. And he finished 4th. Back-to-back weeks of the number 88 car having a debut driver in the Xfinity Series with an extremely impressive result. This is Carson Kvapil's kind of racetrack, a short track. Last week, Bubba Pollard, a short track, his kind of racetrack. A great race for both of those drivers on debut. Sheldon Creed tried his best to win yet again and once again fell short. Sam Mayer, his best run of the season. Other than that, I don't really have any other notes. It got crazy there for a bit. Some wrecks happened. Jeb Burton, Shane Van Gisbergen could be the next random rivalry in NASCAR. I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's it. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Tomorrow we got a Cup Series race. Should be a fun one. Hoping it's a fun one, but I don't know if it can top the Xfinity Series. The Xfinity Series at Martinsville, always a difficult one to top. So hope you guys enjoy this video once again, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Cup race.